Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Let us all make prostrations to the triple jewels together. Once again, let us all recollect the kindness of the triple jewels, and with a full gratitude in heart, let us all place our palms. Request Geshe to give teaching according to the well wishes and capacities of the students. Geshe kindly give us the teaching.
I go for refuge and am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sanje Joba Sobe Jola Amba Chanjo Bado Dani Gyalso Che Tage Chinso Kebe Sonamge Jola Bengire Sanje Jubara Isho Sanje Jola Soge Chonamna Chanjo Bado Dani Gyalso Che Dage Jinso Kebe Sonamge Chola Bengire Sanje Drubara Isho Sanje Choda Soge Chonamla Chanjo Pado Dani Gyursu Dage Jinso Kebe Sonamge Chola Bengire Sanje Drubara Isho Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Te Sham Gato Yavatat Te Sham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati Mahashramana Yeswa Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Te Sham Te Sham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati Mahashramana Yeswa Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Te Sham Gato Yavatat Te Sham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation causes as well is taught by the great seer. Okay, we page 279. We are reading Acharya Chandrakirti's commentary on the Middle Way, which says, a chariot is neither asserted to be other than its parts, nor to be none other. It does not possess them. It does not depend on the parts, and the parts do not depend on it. It is neither the mere collection of the parts, nor is it the shape. It is like this. Okay. So those of us from NMC1 and NMC2, we're yet to reach that part. So this is the essence of, this is the reasons. The reasons offered by Acharya Chandrakirti with respect to establishing the substance as a person. So we keep in mind that all problems that we meet with, any problem, believe it or not, any problem that we meet with, and then I'm sharing what I learned, and then your job, my job, is to see whether it makes sense, whether it's true. All problems, for any problem, so sometimes we see that this little girl who said that, what kind of problem you have? For no reasons, I feel sad. For no reason means no factors, but I feel sad. Yes, it does happen to I'm not sure if I'm not too presumptuous, that each one of us, we might have that experience that when you were young, when you were a teenager, or maybe in your 20s, you might have that experience. You get up early morning, not really necessarily early morning, but you get up, and then for no reason, something very heavy, you feel so heavy, sad. How many of you had that experience? Raise hands. For no reason. You get up and that feeling comes. Okay, so look, these feelings, just imagine if they multiply like 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, it can be very, very demoralizing. And these things can happen. These things can happen. Just imagine it gets multiplied. It can be very scary. So these problems, although we see that, we think that there's the reason, in actuality there's a reason. There are reasons there. And so, broadly speaking, we see that it's like sound clap. External factors, internal factors, they meet, and then the sound is erupted. So this is exactly what happens to us. Even though you think that for no reason this feeling comes, there are external factors, not necessarily immediate factors. They could be like food factor, or not enough rest, or your body's growing. And there could be a factor. So, or like long time ago, something happened, a very bad thing happened to you, and then some of a similar trigger erupted in your dream or the day before, and now it manifests in the form of this deep sadness. So there are the factors there. On the other hand, there's another factor, internal factor. So these two factors come together, then the problems erupt. So, having said this, that the internal factor, we said that, okay, just volunteer. Anyone who likes to share with us, that yes, I had quite a very sad moment in my life. Presents, and if you like to share, not detail, just maybe vaguely, you can share with us. Anyone quick? Okay, then the raise hand. Майк.
Раз.
Yes.
Да. Здравствуйте, Кешала. Это смерть моей старшей сестры.
Venerable Geshe, it's the death of my older sister.
Yes, the death of her older sister is very painful. Anyone else? Quick, anyone else? Okay, Nehala. Neha. Neha from Pune.
When my pet dog fell seriously ill and passed away.
The pet dog seriously fell ill and passed away. Very painful. Okay, this little girl, yes. Very confident. So this confidence, this enormous confidence trapped in this little body. Yes.
So, Geshe, like, one time when my grandmother passed away, it was so sad, like, and with that, like, even one cat that loves me the most, it never hurt me, and it had a lot of kittens. Some died, some were lost, so the whole family was destroyed, so I was so sad.
Okay, good. Otherwise, you should again say and. Okay. So do you all agree with me that when I said that, my pet dog injured and died, it was so painful. Painful to whom? Me. You agree? My mother passed away, painful to me. So there's always a sense of I there. Sense of I, internal factor. And external factors are there. Loss of the pet dog, loss of the mother, loss of the kittens. Some of the kittens who passed away. So we see but the pain, I feel it, I feel the pain. So there are two things happening. One is external factor and internal factors there. So the question is, this is a very important question. Say, how many of you sometimes go through extremely deep pains, so overwhelmingly painful, resents? Overwhelmingly painful. And I don't want to go through this experience ever again, resents? Very good. Question is, do you think that we can stop these pains? This question. Do you think that we can stop these pains? This question. The answer is yes. These things can be, even intellectually, although you are not too convinced or you're not really sure of that, but to say that yes is possible, you are very positive. You go in this direction. Then you go in search of how to stop this pain. So with this, what I'm saying is that there's always two things happening. That I interact with this, and then I lost my mother. My cousin sister here, my cousin sister Samjal is here, and Ajik's daughter is there. We were very small together, and they know that my mother passed away when I was 5 years old. They know that very good. In fact, she was as small, the youngest me, who was just 5 years old, and my sister was a little older. And they know, the pain that we go through. So what I'm saying is that I feel the pain. So that this pain is so painful, and the more you love, the more you feel affectionate towards your mom, dad, and so forth, and the more painful you feel at the loss of that. You agree? Resents. The more the affection, the more the pain when you experience the loss of that person. You agree? Good. So now, what is this? What is that? This affection is good or not? It's like the affection and the pain, these two are directly proportional to each other. Directly proportional. Where the affection increases, the pain increases. So I'll give you 3 options. So much affection and so much pain. One combination, this combo. So much of pain, so much affection, and so much of pain. This is one combo. Another one, no affection, no pain, no affection, no pain, no gain. This is number 2. Number 3, so much affection, no pain. Three options. Which do you like? Number 3 reasons. We all want it. Okay. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in having this affection. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. This affection. Even with husband and wife, this affection is so precious. Some I truly admire. So beautiful. Supporting each other. Whereas business transactions happening sometimes where other person becomes physically so difficult, then you quit. Bye-bye. This is purely business transaction. This is not a support system. So what I'm saying is that this affection is so beautiful. You can just expand this affection to all the beings. This is so beautiful. This is the true magic in the world. Look at His Holiness. For Him, there's no difference between big and small, rich and poor. No difference. Anybody comes to His Holiness. If you keep talking, His Holiness will never say stop talking. You getting it? His Holiness will listen to it, keep listening to it. It's all out of affection. Whatever you want, His Holiness make it happen. They want to talk. Just one day, one person who came to my office and said that the Geshe, we are starting this, and then we have to request His Holiness for advice. And then I said, what are you going to inform His Holiness? So he gave like almost like 2 hours lecture to me. What he's going to do? I said that don't say all this rubbish to His Holiness. If you say all these things, secretary will come and say that, sir, no, your time up, your time finished. You came there not to lecture His Holiness. You came there to seek advice from His Holiness. You will not get advice from His Holiness. Because His Holiness will never interrupt you. His Holiness will listen to you. If you keep talking, He will keep talking, and your time is finished. And you will not get the advice. And what the lecture that you want to give to other people, you already know it, whether you give or you know it's with you. But the sad thing is that you don't get the advice from His Holiness. You went there not to give lecture to His Holiness. You went there to seek advice from His Holiness. You don't get the advice. So I said that, what do? Don't talk like 2 hours. Talk for 2 minutes. Make it succinct. And just seek advice from His Holiness. Till you ask for His Holiness advice, His Holiness, I'll give you advice. His Holiness will never say this. This is His Holiness's compassion. So this is what I told him. So what I'm saying is that all these problems where there's so much of love and affection with no pain, the 100% is possible. 100% possible. So the point is that, so the pain, how this pain is coming, is already, there's something inside me. The fact is there, so much love and affection. Then with the loss, separation, the pain is so acute. So what is this mechanism? What is this mechanism? This is the question. This is what we need to remember. So, therefore, the point is that in actuality what is happening is that the object which triggered this pain and the sense of I. So there's I involved and there's the phenomena involved. There are 2 things involved. So misconception of the phenomena with which you interact and the misconception of the self. Misconceptions. Not just the self. Self and the object that you meet and the pain arises. No, it's not necessary. It's the misconception of the self, self-grasping ignorance, self-grasping of the person, of the self, self-grasping of the person, and self-grasping of the phenomena with which you interact. These 2 self-graspings arise, meet, and erupt into miseries. So now our job is that if you remove one of the 2 hands, only one hand is left. Only one hand is left. No sound. Sound of misery stops. Okay, so 2 hands out. 2 hands out. Okay, do what I'm doing. Good. Now only one hand out. If I hear a sound, is a naughty person. I can hear some sound somewhere from here. I'm not expecting this. I expect this with one hand sound coming out. I expect this in schools. Small children in school, not here. I'm listening and I heard it somewhere from here. You're getting it? Okay. So Ajirji says, it's not me. Ajirji is saying, it's not me, it's there. Okay, good. Okay, so the point is that misconception of the self-grasping of the person, self-grasping of the phenomena, when these two arrive, when these two meet, then erupts into miseries. This is a pain. So the Buddha, the method the Buddha taught is amazing. Otherwise, today, say you go to some counselors. So there are some counselors that are just amazing, but some they will say that no, you came there, please solve the problem, and how will they solve? Is that this pain you have to take it, you have to accept it, and go. That we already know that you're getting it, you have to accept it. But some counselors are amazing. Amazing. Okay, so having said this, now it's very important for us to know this, the what? Emptiness of intrinsic self, emptiness of intrinsic self, or in other words, it's important for us to know the selflessness of person, to remove of the two. So generally speaking, selflessness of person, selflessness of the phenomena, and of the two. So which is easier to get rid of, not talking about the philosophical sense, how many, this self-I and others, how many things which you call as others are there? How many things are there? Innumerable are there, but I is only one. So it's way simpler, generally speaking, it's way simpler to remove this, the internal factor. Internal factor, broadly speaking, only two. Self-grasping ignorance and selfishness. Self-grasping ignorance, selfishness, these are the two problems inside. No matter what, our job, as I said earlier, the remote control is in your hand. Luckily, this is a good story. That, of course, the external factors involved, internal factors involved. No matter how forceful the external factor is, if the internal factor is removed, is no sound. Likewise, internal factor, whether the external factor stops or not, is not in your hand. To some extent, you can. For example, His Holiness. His Holiness's advice. Because of that, how many people, for example, in the big monastic universities earlier, because of the habitual tendency from the past, Tibet, so people come here, they're non-veg. And then His Holiness says that in the big monastic, big kitchens, it's always better to turn to vegetarianism. Now, you go to the big monastic universities, or the main kitchen is all vegetarian. That's amazing, amazing. So likewise, say, of the Tibetans. So generally, in the history of the humanity, where the human evolution from the kingdoms to the democracy today, if you look at the evolution of the democracy, we see how many people gave their life fighting against the tyranny and so forth, fighting against, and wars were happening and so forth, which means wars against your enemies. The Tibetans are kicked out from his country by the so-called enemy. But His Holiness categorically advised his followers that don't hold grudge or anger or hostility against the communist Chinese. This is a message, this is advice. Because of this, now you go to you meet with the Tibetans. You may meet only one or two people, say 1 out of 1,000 Tibetans who may say that I really hate the Chinese. But generally speaking, Tibetans, they don't really hate because of incredibly great leadership. So one leadership, they can change the thought process of the people. So, but in the history of the humanity, we see that people are all against the tyranny and so forth, hostility, anger, these things are there. It's human nature. But with respect to, so these things are there, and then how many external things to be dealt with? Innumerable. But you can deal with the internal factors. What is that? Self-grasping and self-centered attitude. These two, if you manage, anybody who's more compassionate, that person is the happiest person. And anybody who has the wisdom to deal with self-grasping ignorance, these people will become very confident. So confidence giving rise to fearlessness. Compassion giving rise to the ease. So this is the secret of happiness. Everybody seeks these two, and it's possible. So with this in mind, now the next question is how to dissolve this grasping at the selfhood of the person. In other words, how to see the selflessness of person, so that one with two hands is removed. Then only one hand. No suffering, all the suffering dissolves. So for that, so initially what the Buddha taught was that the Buddha taught this self. There's nothing to grasp at to say that there's an intrinsic self there. This self is like illusion. And how illusion? Then the Buddha taught reasons to explain that. What reasons? Buddha taught the four basic reasons to establish that the person is like a dream. Then Arya Nagarjuna came, and Arya Nagarjuna, in order for the contemporary, the audience, to understand things clearer, Arya Nagarjuna added one more. Then 7th century AD, Great Acharya Chandrakriti came to add two more, making it 7. 7 modes of rejection. 7 modes of rejection. Rejection to reject the intrinsic self. That the self does not exist intrinsically, that the self is like illusion. So what are these 7 modes? This is the question. Okay. The first, let me, for the ease of our quick learning, let me put it like this. The opposite of these 7, or as the 7 modes, and then we can reject the 7 one by one. First, okay, let's note it down to make it very quick so that you can easily remember. Oneness, 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 differentness, then dependee, then dependent, possession slash appropriation, next, collection, special shape. Okay, let us do this once more. Oneness, differentness, dependent, dependee, possession slash appropriation, collection, and special shape. A special shape, S-H-A-P-E, shape. Okay, is there anybody who can say this by heart? Raise hands. Quick. Raise hands. I can see 3, 4, 5. Only 3, 4, 5. There should be more than 3, 4, 5. Raise hands. Okay, who is that? At the end? Yes. Mike.
Ташители Гешела. Первая — тождественность, различность, зависимость, опора, принадлежность или обладание, совокупность, особая форма или особая конфигурация.
Venerable Geshe-la, it's oneness, differentness, dependee, dependent, possession, collection, and special shape.
Wonderful. Russian group passed. Now the non-Russian, anyone? Non-Russian, anyone? Frisla? Okay, Frisla, Mike. Oh, Mike.
Not as one, not different, not as dependee, not as dependent, not as a possessor, not as a collection, and not as special shape.
Wonderful. Thank you. And any representative? Okay, the Minotiji, raise hand. By heart.
Geshe-la, we had to remind you something.
What is that?
You had requested when we do the rejection of 7 modes, we were to remind you about what Vivekla said regarding intrinsic nature.
Okay. So the best thing would be, if possible, on a piece of paper, write it down and leave it on my table.
Right.
So I can take it and I prepare it and come.
I'll do that, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm glad that you have on your fingertips. These 7: oneness, differentness, dependent, dependee, possession / appropriation, collection, special shape. Very good. Okay, so now let me put this in the form of a syllogism. In the form of a syllogism, in the form of reason. Reason, when you in the form of logical assertion. Okay, let's say the person. A person as the topic. A person as a topic. It does not exist intrinsically. It does not exist intrinsically because it is not, what is the number one? Oneness. It is empty of, it is not one, comma, different, comma, not one, not different from the parts. And then next is not dependent, not dependee, not appropriator or possessor, not the collection, not the special shape. In other words, the reason that I give is that this person, the person does not exist intrinsically because the person is empty of these 7 modes of intrinsic existence. In a conversational form, we can say the person is empty of intrinsic reality because he or she is empty of 7 modes of intrinsic existence. Okay, so with this, we'll quickly go one by one, and then our reading will be faster. Otherwise, if you don't know how to reject these 7 modes, then reading will take a lot of time. First, let's say, sit up properly, and it's going to be like a partial meditation on emptiness. Okay. Today we will do the meditation on the emptiness of self. Emptiness of self based on what we have said. Rejection of the 7 modes of intrinsic existence. Okay, just think of yourself. What are you doing? I'm meditating. This I, the person that you say is I, this person, just tell me, how does this person appear to you? As this person, as like a dream that the mind is creating it, or no way, it's so objective, so well defined, intrinsically there, independent of mind. How does it appear? Of course, so objectified, intrinsically there as real. So, what's the problem with this? This belief that the self, this person exists as intrinsically, as the independent from my mind, this is what creates all the fears, all the problems, all the pains in my mind. How do you know that? Just think of the dream. In the dream, your mind creates this dream of the dream ghost. And seeing the dream ghost as real, not as a dream, as real, objective real, not imputed by your mind, as objective real, just erupts into fear. The moment you wake up to discover that this dream ghost is just purely empty from the object, purely projection by my mind, which means from the object is empty. To discover that, the fear dissolves. Wow, that's amazing. This is exactly what happens to the self. I, as long as we see this I as intrinsically real, as independent of my mind, the way you see the ghost in the dream as real, the fears are invariably arising. The fears arise invariably. Okay, so this is not, that belief that it exists intrinsically is the cause of the miseries. Now, how do we know that this ignorance is not valid mind? Remember what Aranyarjuna taught. If the mirage were to be water, but not those close by the mirage see water, with a similar token of reasoning, if this person who identifies I were to exist objectively, why don't I see this I as a go close to the object? Going close to the object, which is technically known as subjecting this person ultimate analysis. Subject person ultimate analysis. Okay, now oneness, differentness, dependent, dependee, appropriator, collection, and the special shape. Okay, let's say oneness. You go in this direction when you see the self. Earlier, I asked you, how does this person appear to you? It appears so objectively, so well defined, nothing to do with my mind, which having a self-sustaining entity, self-subsistency there, so independent of other factors. So it should be visible, it should be evident in the eyes of the ultimate analysis. And as the eyes of the ultimate analysis, as you go closer towards the object, you will end up seeing the 6 elements. Element earth, thin layer of the skin, behind the fatty tissues, muscles, the cartilages, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the whole skeleton. These constitute the element of earth, the solid parts of the body, constitute element earth, and are there to be identified as intrinsically as one. Intrinsic meaning objectively. Objectively meaning in the eyes of ultimate analysis. In the eyes of ultimate analysis, is any of these the solid parts, element earth, exists as the self, which means intrinsically one with the self? No. Then what about the element water? 4 liters of blood, which is pumped in and out by the heart to different parts of the body? Of course not. Element of heat, element of fire, 2,700 joules of energy of your body, in simply put, the body heat. Of course, that is also not identified as intrinsically one with the self. Element of space, of course not. Element of air, 4.6 liters of air that we breathe in and out through your lungs. Of course, that is also not identified as intrinsically as the self. Now, element consciousness. And consciousness, your mind, is something that people can see you, but they don't see your mind. And also that I'm a male, I'm a non-male, I'm a female, I'm a non-female. So this gender is posited based on the body. The mind does not have a gender, but I have a gender, which means that even this consciousness of the mind is also not to be identified as a person. Yes. Okay. So now what are you seeing? I'm just seeing the 6 elements. Which of the 6 elements do I identify as intrinsically as one with the self? None. Stay in this experience for a while. Okay. So if you are definitely certain, if you're definitely aware of this knowledge, then that suffices understanding of the emptiness of the object being intrinsic one with its parts. Okay, if not one, now the number 2, differentness. Remove the 6 elements to see if the person who identifies I will exist intrinsically as different from the 6 elements. Remove the 6 elements, what happens? What is there left as the intrinsic self? Nothing's there in the eyes of this ultimate analysis. It just disappears. To my surprise, I discovered that it's empty. It's not different, not intrinsically different from the parts, which are the 6 elements. Okay, slowly come out of this practice. Very good. So, if you are quite happy with these the points, you have rejected the oneness and you have rejected the differentness. Done. What is next? Dependent and dependee. Okay. Now the self, the person, yourself, as dependent, and the 6 elements, the parts, the 6 elements as dependee, upon which the self depends. So yourself, the person, Dorji, or Venerable Samala or Genhabala, as the dependent, and you aggregate your 6 elements as the dependee. So are you dependent on your 6 elements? Yes, no. You're dependent, but it says not dependent. Not one, not different, not dependent, not dependent, not appropriator, not the power, not the collection, not the special shape. So not, rejection. Rejection with certain modes. So how would you say that how do you then justify this not dependent, not dependee? How do you justify this? Anyone? Okay. Gorilla, Mike, Gorilla, raise a hand to make sure that the mic gentleman knows you. Your hand should go up. Yes.
Geshe-la, because even those 6 elements or aggregates on which I impute the person do not have self-sustaining, intrinsic, or any existence from their own side. So it is only mentally imputed.
Okay. Are you Goriji or not? Are you Gori or not? Yes. You are. So Goriji is imputed on you.
Yes.
It is imputed to you doesn't mean that it is not you. Likewise, say, I'm dependent. I'm dependent on the 6 elements. I'm dependent. Yes, 6 elements also maybe be imputed on something else, but it's dependent, which means that you can reject the dependency. So you are the dependent, and 6 elements are the dependee. Likewise, okay. So one, that you are, how many of you will say that I am dependent on my six elements? Raise your hands. Because when your 6 elements go wrong, then you say, I'm not feeling well. So you are dependent. And your 6 elements also depend on you. For example, you say, this is my hand. Without me, you cannot qualify this as my hand. So this is dependent on me also. It is, I am the dependee and my hand is a dependent. And my hand is the dependee, and they are mutually dependent dependee. You're getting it? These two are the self and its aggregates or the parts. These two are mutually dependent dependee. How many agree with me in a sense? If you agree with me, how can you reject it? It says that not dependent, not dependee. Dependent dependee is rejected. How can you reject it? If you agree that they are dependent dependee. Anyone? Raise hands, raise hands, raise hands. Okay. Anna Sophie. Anna Sophie, raise hand. Anna Sophie, raise hand. Yes. How can you reject it?
You reject intrinsic dependent.
Okay, intrinsic dependency rejected. So dependency not rejected?
No.
Okay, dependence not rejected. Intrinsic dependency rejected. How do you reject the intrinsic dependency? Tell me. Okay, what Anusov is saying is that dependence is not rejected because it is dependent. I'm dependent on my 6 elements, and my 6 elements depend on me. There's a dependency there. But the intrinsic dependency is rejected. How do you reject it? How would you explain that I'm not intrinsically dependent on my on my 6 elements? Okay. Lorela?
Geshe-la, we have just rejected intrinsic difference. And in order for something to intrinsically depend on another thing, it must be separate. And we've already rejected differentness, intrinsic differentness.
Okay, let's put it, okay, let's go step by step, follow up. Okay, so step by step. First, let's say, to reject the intrinsic dependency, we need to reject intrinsic differentness. To reject it, how do we reject the intrinsic differentness?
We have just done that in the meditation that you were guiding us in.
How?
By rejecting that the self is not intrinsically different from its elements, by looking at all the elements separately and then removing them all. And when they're all gone, you do not find a separate self there. Okay, how many agree with Lorella? Okay, with the follow-up question. So those who do not raise hand, I know why they're not raising hands. There's going to be a follow-up question. You're getting it? Okay, follow-up question is that, what about
let's say that what about, let's say, the Svatantrika Madhyamaka. Svatantrika Madhyamaka, or listen, to make it easier, the Svatantrika school, Svatantrika teacher, if you ask them that if the aggregate is removed, the self will be left, what will they say?
They would say yes. Well,
what yes? Self exists, not exists. If you remove all the six elements.
No. For them, of course not, no.
Of course not. Of course not. Did they realize that the self and the parts, these are empty of intrinsic difference? Okay, for them.
No.
For them, are these two, self and its parts, are these two intrinsically different or not? For them, for Svatantrika school. Are these two intrinsically different or not? Are these two different or not? Hey, the self and the six elements which constitute the self, are these two different or not for Svatantrika? For you, are these two different or not? For you, this is not different. This means you are into a deep meditative place where everything dissolved. Right? Okay, are these different or not? Self and your parts, these two are different or not? Different. For Svatantrika, are these two different or not? For Svatantrika, if something is different, these two should necessarily be intrinsically different. Yes? Intrinsic. The intrinsic existence and existence mean the same for them. You're getting it? Intrinsic existence and existence mean the same. Yes? What is different should necessarily be intrinsically different. But according to what you said, supporting Lorella, that even the Svatantrika should be able to reject the intrinsic differentness. Because when you remove the parts, then Svatantrika will say that the whole will not be left. So how do you reject the intrinsic differentness? This is a very serious question. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Okay, Tensbiela here. Tensbiela raise hand over there. And next to Shar.
If the person and the aggregates were inherently different, they would be independent of each other. They would be then totally unrelated and there would be no connection.
Okay, if the two were intrinsically, okay, look, if the two were different, intrinsically different, the two should be unrelated. My question is how?
Geshe, then the person would be, if they're unrelated, the parts and the person.
No, I'm not saying unrelated. If they're intrinsically different, they should be unrelated. This is your position. My question is, how can you justify that if the two things are intrinsically different, these two are unrelated? How can you justify that? Don't take for granted.
There's no connection. There's no connection.
Why? If the two things are intrinsically different, there should be no connection. Why? For example, Svatantrika teachers, Svatantrika Madhyamaka philosophers, they know that these two have connections, but they still think that these two are intrinsically different. So how can you justify that if two things are intrinsically different, they should have no connection, they should be unrelated? Tushar?
Geshe, I will try. It may not be a technical answer, but if I am finding selflessness of Tushar, and if I say that Tushar's hand is dependent on Tushar, not intrinsically, but yeah. But if I say that Tushar exists intrinsically, then I have to find Tusharness in either the self or like either in Tushar or Tushar's hand. But we don't find that. When a sprout comes from a seed, like a mango tree comes from mango seed. That is accounted for in Prasangika also. But like a unique cause giving rise to a unique result. But if exists intrinsically, then we have to find like mango-ness, something which is, mango in that seed, which we don't find according to Prasangika. Svatantrika Madhyamika, on the other hand, feel that there is something intrinsic, like a mango-ness in the seed, and similarly something intrinsic called tusharness, which makes it dependent on. Yeah.
Okay, I will not be deviated. My question to you is, if the two things are intrinsically different, why is it that the two things should be unrelated? Why? I'll stick to this question.
Geshe, can you please repeat the question?
Yes. Which means answer that you gave is not the answer to my question. Which you don't know my question.
Oh, sorry.
My question is, why, if the self and its parts, if these two are intrinsically different, why should they be unrelated? Okay. Okay, chola tendola. Chola tendola. Am I coming?
Geshe, if it's intrinsic, it shouldn't be dependent on each other, because intrinsic means independent of
non-intrinsic. If it's intrinsic, they should be independent of each other. Yes, then?
That's why the self and the body shouldn't be related to each other, because they're not dependent.
My next question is, if the two things are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other? Next question. Any hands coming up? Okay, Lavinia. Lavinia over there. He ran and he didn't know where to go.
There's no common locus point.
Okay, there's no common locus point. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, Tinsi Shambhala. Tinsi Shambhala, raise hand. If two things are intrinsically different, why they should be independent of each other?
Hello. Thank you, Geshe. I will try. So let's look at the person. And the person looks like one entity with its parts. And then we go closer towards the person. And the person disappears. And it looks different from its parts. So if it's like when it's far away, it looks one. And when it's close, it looks different. And this is only tenable for a false mode of existence. Something which is not dependent on the mind.
If the two things are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other?
So this is only applicable for something which is a false mode of existence, so they could not be one entity if they are intrinsically.
This is not my question. I'm not saying one entity different. I'm asking, if the two things are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other? Okay.
Yeah, independence has two meanings. Either not cause and effect or not one entity. So they are not cause and effect because they are simultaneous. And they are not one entity because of what I just gave now.
So which means
this
is independent. It's not dependent on the cause conditions. So they should be independent. Is what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not independent. We're rejecting independence. Okay. Sedamala, raise your hand. Raise higher. Okay, this is very tricky, but I don't know how to explain this. Okay, I'm not getting the satisfactory answers here. Okay, yes.
Geshe, I'll try using the example of whole and parts. Like when we are seeing the whole, we do not see the parts at the same time. And when we see the parts, we do not see the whole. So they are related. If they are intrinsically different, whole and parts, we should be able to see both at the same time.
Okay, if the two things are intrinsically different, we should be able to see the two things
at the same time.
At the same time. My question is, if the two things are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other? Why? Seeing two things at the same time doesn't mean that the two things are independent of each other. For example, I can see, like for example, let's say that I can see the window Okay. Siddhamala, look at the windows there on the other side of this hall. On the other side of this hall, I see the building. The window of this hall. Window and all the walls included, walls and windows included. I've seen this hall.
Yes.
You are seeing the hall. You are seeing the part of the hall?
Yes.
You are seeing both. You said that seeing the hall makes you not see the parts. When you see the parts, you don't see the whole. This is wrong. You're seeing the parts as well as the whole. Okay, I've seen my hand. Yes. I've seen the front part of my hand. Yes. Front part of my hand is part of my hand. Yes. So you are seeing the part as well as the whole. Yes. Whole. When you see the hand, you don't see the back also. It's not necessary. You agree? Okay. Okay. Let's say let's say one Raviji, Andrea, and Aruna, and the Chavila. Okay, first, Ravila.
Yeah, Geshe-la, because there are two isolates, if there are two different isolates, they are mutually exclusive and...
okay, they are different isolates, very good. They are different isolates. The two different isolates. What about the cause and effect? Cause and effect, they are two different isolates. Are they dependent on each other or not?
They are of course dependent.
Yes, they are dependent on each other. So therefore, still we can see that although they are different isolates, still they can be dependent on each other. Okay, this is another point to keep in mind. Now, Andrea. Yes, Andrea.
Geshe-la, if we have two intrinsically different phenomena, and at the same time they would not be different intrinsically from each other, then they would share, I would support the same locus point, so they would exist in part from the same nature, thus they would not be different.
Okay, let us put it like this. First, I'm confused by your statement. First statement is, if two things are intrinsically different, start from there. If two things are intrinsically different, why the two should be independent of each other? Why?
If they wouldn't be independent, they would share...
No, this is not my question. Why, if the two things are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other? I'm not taking for granted that if they're independent, no. If these are intrinsically different, why should they be independent of each other? This is my question.
Okay.
Okay, Aruna.
Geshe-la, if the two things are independent, intrinsically different from each other, they should be independent because they are separate. And if you remove one thing, the other one stays there.
Okay, so let's say cause and effect. Cause and effect
is not applicable.
Are they different or not?
If they are different intrinsically, so cause
is different then?
Yeah, cause and effect doesn't apply to them.
Why not? Why not?
Because they're not dependent.
How not?
If there is no one, another one could be
okay, so two
there.
things.
Yeah.
If they are not dependent on each other, so the fact is that, okay, so what you're saying is that these two are dependent on each other, they are dependent on each other. The proof is that if one is missing, the other is also missing.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, which means that the two things are independent of each other.
Yes, if they are separate, if they are not intrinsically...
if they're intrinsically real, they should be independent of each other. Why?
Because when you remove one, the other one can stay.
Mona, this is the meaning of independence from each other.
Yeah.
But if two things are intrinsically real, why should that be the case that if you remove one, other should stay? Why? Okay, Chavila. Okay, so meanwhile, when this question answer is happening, you also think. All of us, we should think. If you think, this is like the debate in the debate courtyard. Tibet courtyard, how the scholars, monk scholars, nun scholars, how their intelligence sharpened is because of this interaction. So you also think. So what questions asked, what answer would you give? And somebody gives a good answer. What question that you ask? Okay, Shavila.
Geshe, I'll try. If two entities are intrinsically
if two
things are intrinsically different, then there would be two different entities like the table and the pen.
Why?
Because they would be independent of each other.
Why?
It would be if they are intrinsically different, then
Okay. Okay, Shavila is an honest debater, I can feel it. Some debaters, young people like them, they'll say something. Right? They'll say something. Right? Shavila, till she gets something, she will not say. You're getting it? Okay, I'm just teasing these young monk scholars. Okay. Indrajitji, and then we'll stop here.
Geshe, I'll just try. Because they don't share the same continuum in the process of production.
If the two things are intrinsically real, they should not share the same continuum in the process of production. Why?
Because they are intrinsically, their nature is different. So that is why their causes and effects, what everyone said, is going to be different.
Why?
So I give up here. Because
okay, finally, okay, Lauren, raise your hand higher.
Well, if two things exist intrinsically, each of them will never cease to exist. So,
if the two things exist intrinsically, it will never cease to exist.
If one thing exists intrinsically, it will never cease to exist. If another thing exists intrinsically, it will also never cease to exist. So they cannot enter into a relationship of dependence. And each of them, they have their own.
Okay, let's put it like this: if the two things exist intrinsically, A and B, if A exists intrinsically, it should forever exist.
Yes.
Likewise, B intrinsically exists, it should forever exist.
Yes.
If it forever exists, there should be dependence is redundant.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, why, if A exists intrinsically, it should forever exist? Why?
Because something which exists intrinsically is not coming out from a cause. There's no.
Why?
Cause.
Why not? If something exists intrinsically, why can it not arise from the causes? Okay, look, these are the questions to keep in mind. Now, okay, now tell me, intrinsic existence and objective existence, they mean the same or not? Yes. Louder. Yes. What yes? Intrinsic existence and objective existence mean the same. Okay. Now, if the two things are intrinsically different, it should be objectively different, yes? They should be objectively real, yes? If objectively real, how to evaluate that? To see if they're objective or not objective, how to evaluate? By subjecting them to ultimate analysis. You're getting it? Subjecting them to ultimate analysis, you go, how do you go there? If the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see water? As simple as that. You go into the object to see what it is like. So the differentness, you go into the object to see where the differentness lies. Intrinsic difference means objectively it should be different, and this differentness of the two things should be visible in the eyes of the ultimate analysis. In the eyes of ultimate analysis, what are the two things different? The table and its parts, let's say. The person and its aggregates, the person dissolves, yes. The parts dissolve, yes. So two things to be seen as dependent and depending, both dissolve. So the person dissolves in the experience of ultimate analysis. So only if at all something is there, only 6 elements are left, only the parts are left. And if the parts are left, dependent means they should be you as depending on something else and other as dependent. There should be two things. In the absence of two things, the phenomenon of dependence makes no sense. How many agree with me? No sense. In the absence of two things, if only one, you cannot say dependent, depending. Dependent, depending, but the appropriation or possession makes sense only if there are two things, yes? So the moment you subject the self to ultimate analysis, objectively, it appears. If it is not there, then see what depends and what is a dependee. It doesn't make sense. You're getting it? So remember that intrinsic existence connotes objective existence, and objective existence connotes something existing in the eyes of the ultimate analysis. So when you subject the two things which are seen as intrinsic real, when you subject them to ultimate analysis, the two things disappear. So there's a phenomenon of differentness. Things are not there, based on which we talk about the different, they are different or same. That doesn't exist. So therefore, there's no intrinsic differentness, there's no intrinsic dependent, and appropriation. So the three are rejected. So first, oneness, differentness, and dependent and appropriation, the 5 are rejected. You're getting it? Okay, good. So we stop here. So now what is left? Collection is left. Special shape is left. Okay. We stop here. Together.